The pick is in.
With the 15th pick, the Atlanta Falcons select Jalon Walker, linebacker, Georgia. Let's bring in Locked On Atlanta Falcons host Aaron Freeman. So first of all, Free, I got to give you so much credit because the inside joke is you kept on your pink shirt because that's what we wore on our show earlier today because we wanted the Falcons to come in hot. They did what you asked them to do. Your mantra has been the free guarantee on your Locked On Falcons show, our Atlanta Football Party shows. How satisfying is it for you? First of all, to have your guarantee of a defensive player actually come to fruition.
I was a little nervous, T, in the lead up to the pick because I'm like, it's right there. Jalon Walker, when Carolina passed on him, the second most popular destination for him besides 8 to the Panthers was 15 to the Falcons. And it was like, okay, this seems to be the way it goes, but the Falcons will always throw you a curveball and zig when you expect them to zag. And so I was a little nervous. And then when the pick came in and it was Jalon Walker, I'm like, okay, yep, makes total sense. The Falcons get a versatile player, right? That's the thing with Jalon Walker, right? If you love the versatility, you say he's a hybrid. If you don't love the versatility, you call him a tweener. But a guy that played both linebacker and defensive end or outside linebacker, edge rusher, whatever you want to call it, for the Georgia Bulldogs this past year, has that versatility for the Atlanta Falcons. But I think given their obvious need to enhance their pass rush, they're going to ask him to go forward as an edge rusher immediately. And he has the tools and talent to help them immediately in that role.
Yeah, because he's officially listed as a linebacker. Obviously, the Falcons depth chart is right with linebackers, but what's that one thing that kind of stands out for you when you look at Jeff Ulbrich, some of the comments that he's made as defensive coordinator for this Falcons team and how he wants to really delve into and really kind of lean into that variety and multiples? What do you think is that biggest thing that Jalon Walker brings for this Jeff Ulbrich defense?
Yeah, well, you talk about multiple defenses. It's that hybrid defense. Sometimes we're 3-4, sometimes we're 4-3, and so Jalon Walker has the ability to be able to be moved around the formation. And I think especially really what Jalon Walker allows you to do is to be a more aggressive defense, that he's not necessarily at this stage in his career a guy that you can just ask to put his hand in the dirt and go get the quarterback. I think with him and Leonard Floyd and Arnold Ebiketie and Caden Ellis and all these guys that the Falcons have up front, there's not a single one of these guys, at least at this stage in their careers, that you can say that's a guy that I definitely know is going to be able to get the quarterback on the ground. Now, obviously, with the Falcons selecting Jalon Walker this high, they expect him to grow into that player. But I think what the Falcons are looking to do is to be that more aggressive defense, as we saw in that 5-week span after their bye week when they were, I think, second or third in the NFL in sacks after spending the entire previous part of the season being dead last in sacks. And what they did during that span of games was they unleashed Caden Ellis, they unleashed Arnold Ebiketie, and I think Jalon Walker and now Leonard Floyd have that ability to sort of the Falcons with their simulated pressures, their blitzes and whatnot, and putting 5, 6, 7 guys on the line of scrimmage and offenses not knowing where these guys are coming from, who's going to come. Jalon Walker fits into that sort of identity on defense. And that sort of, I think, is what is going to define this Jeff Ulbrich scheme with Jalon Walker on the team.
Yeah, as good as Jalon Walker is, Aaron, some may say it's a bold pick. And we can explain what we mean by bold, because with this Falcons organization, particularly in the Terry Fontenot scheme, it has been 4 straight offensive players in the first round. So to get a defensive player in the first round is a bold move for this Falcons organization under the Terry Fontenot era, right? And also to get a UGA player in the first round is an absolutely bold move from what we've seen from Terry Fontenot. Do you believe, Aaron, that this is kind of reading the tea leaves, that we're going to see some more bold, sort of uncharacteristically bold moves from Fontenot?
It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the draft goes, with this being sort of the first selection. As you said, this is the first, I believe, Georgia player they've taken in the first round. This is the first Georgia player they've taken in the top 100 since 2011 when they took Akeem Dent in the 3rd round in that Julio Jones draft. This is, this is one of those things where we sat here all offseason saying, if they don't get a Georgia player early in this year's draft, given how some of the top Georgia players lined up perfectly with their needs, particularly on the defensive side of the ball, like, it's never going to happen for this football team. And as you said, getting that defensive player after years and years of investing on the offensive side of the ball, and you saw that offense look like it was on a bright trajectory at the end of the season with Michael Penix. And it's like, hey, you got enough pieces on that side of the ball. You need some help for this defense that desperately needs it. That was, bottom 5 throughout most of last season and was dead last for most of last season in terms of pass rush. So I think Jalon Walker really shows that the Falcons are not, going to putt around and make and try to be cute with their draft selection. And we talked all offseason about how this is going to be a defensive heavy draft, and at least one pick in, so far so good. With the rest of the picks, because as I said, the Falcons are known to throw a curveball at you, but it does seem like they're heading in that direction for that defensive heavy focus.
I'm so glad that you and I didn't have to start our conversation this year with the Falcons gonna Falcon, because they didn't. Falcon, appreciate the time free. For continuing coverage of the Falcons, subscribe to Locked On Falcons wherever you get your podcast. And for more on Jalon Walker, let's hear from Locked On Bulldogs host Clint Shamblin, who spent a lot of time covering Walker up close.
Clint Shamblin, Locked On Bulldogs here, talking Jalon Walker and why he is going to be your team's favorite draft pick. It's this and this reason alone. He's the best linebacker in the draft, period. That's all you need to know. This cat is the real deal. He came under Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, really, really accelerated under athleticism, point of attack, pass rushing, as well as sideline to sideline eraser. Nakobe Dean, Roquan Smith, Channing Tindall, all of them are there. And this is just the next succession of great linebackers at Georgia. If you are a linebacker in America that wants to get drafted onto a playoff team, you come to Georgia. That's where you go. If your team needs a linebacker, you head down to Kirby Smart, because the products are ready to go. And Jalon Walker, Butkus award-winning linebacker, he not only can play with his hand off the ground, he can get into a stance and get off the edge. He's a disruptor. He's incredible. Your team is lucky to be getting him. Jalon Walker, great draft selection. Speed, athleticism, smarts, and tenacity all rolled into one.